Hello there gang, Devere here, another Pass Blast. We should be playing a little bit of Wolfenstein 3D. And that is Wolfenstein, not Wolfenstein, some people tried to call it. You wouldn't have Frankenstein's monster, would you? So of course this was released way back in 1991 by id Software, which of course was the team of these chappies you just saw there, and published by Apogee. So let's get something going here, shall we? So options are very limited. This is a DOSBox emulated game. This is the Steam version, not the GOG version. So in way of options, controls are somewhat limited. Your customized controls is back to ye old school style of very limited. But of course, because it is a DOSBox emulator, you do have the key mapper software of Control F1, which I have already set a few settings to make it play a bit more modern. And there's a few sound options, but basically that's your lot. So let's dive on with a new game. In typical fashion for id Software, the game is split into separate episodes. Each episode is comprised of X amount of levels, with a boss fight at the end, but you can play them as usual in any order. We shall start with episode 1, as the start is the best place to begin. For the sake of this, I'll put it on to something like Don't Hurt Me. Of course, first things first, if you really want to, you can control it just with the mouse like I'm doing here. But I have got WASD of sorts, because that just feels more natural now. So you can definitely see straight off the bat, graphically, yeah, it's pretty much showing its age there. And as the sound as well. Definitely, especially for the distance there. If you try looking at the distance, it all becomes a rather grindy blur of pixels. So combat can be sometimes a bit challenging in this game. There's a reason for that, which we should discuss shortly. And that's the hit scans style weapons. Now there is a sort of limited amount of auto aim in this game, which was very popular at the time. The hit scans have got some more of a cone of fire effect, which means that's just like here you could be aiming straight at and fire and you'll get a miss. Then you could aim over here, fire and get a hit. So, and the other problem is, of course, is that enemy weapons also have those same rules. So when they're shooting at you, you could be standing completely still and they could totally miss you. You could be strafing around and they'll still land hits on you. So it does make combat quite punishing, especially at the later levels and the higher difficulties, because of course you will get more enemies and they do quite a bit of damage. Even at the lower levels, their bullets can do quite a bit of damage to you. Come on, let me in. So this now we've now got the machine and pistol. 40. Just noticed a treasure to collect, because if you've seen it at the bottom life, we have lives. So there's a strange mix between old school game and modern. But if you do die, you only come back with your pistol with 8 bullets and your knife. So really saves there for a reason, let's put it that way. So, you know, use it would be my sound advice there. Of course, the problem is, it means there's not that much point to collecting the extra lives. You really want to keep yourself as topped up with stuff as you can in this game. So as of course is the way often with many of these games, there is a source port version available, EC Wolf, which we shall look at very shortly via the magic of video editing. So game-wise, it's a bit of an oddity because it's stuck on the corners because I'm expecting Wasad to kind of move me side to side. But yes, it's a bit of an odd game, really. It's not really. It was not the first 3D game by id Software. A lot of people don't realise that was actually Hover Tank 3D was the first one, and then Catacombs 3D, which followed it. It's also not even the first game in the series. This was actually originally. So this was 1991. It was originally based on a game 10 years earlier called Wolfenstein, which was a top-down stealth game. So it's a bit of an odd ball, really, this game. So what I'll do is I shall now switch over to the source port version of the game. So EC Wolf, and you can see how that improves it. Okay, so now here we are in EC Wolf, the source port. So let's have a look at our oops. I'm going to. I don't know why I'm mouse scrolling through the controls for. And it's a bit gammy, that's why. So first of all, controls. You've actually got a proper, if I come down here, actual proper key mapper for starters. So I've got strafe now. Strafe left and right properly assigned. I've also got the disable y-axis because there's really no point looking up and down in this game. Some sound options, very much the same as the last ones, but most importantly, display options. It now supports modern resolutions through this port. So let's just dive on with a new game, and episode 1 again, and I'll still play on Don't Hurt Me. Get psyched. So right off the bat, you can see it's much more impressive. I don't have any mouse control except for left and right. Now, I know some of the purists out there will be already thumbing down the video because of the fact I'm using strafe left and right rather than having turn on A and D. But, you know, some things you've improved in time for a reason, and that was definitely one of them. But the purists still rage that you should only ever play with turn. But I mean, come on, I mean, it's 20 years now using Wasad, so... See what I mean there? Sort of, even though he was clearly in front, that hit scan meets RNG meant I still missed. One thing that's worth noting in this game, it does actually have, it's actually pretty good AI for the age of it. If there's sort of guards in a certain radius area of when you start shooting, they will actually come to investigate. They will come to investigate the shooting. They'll also open doors and like come down looking for you as well. They don't just stay in stuck patrol areas. So that's definitely quite impressive for the age of the game, 91. It's hard to believe these games originated as a stealth game. There's nothing stealth about this. It's pure start shooting things. So I don't know why I keep collecting the treasure, because again, it hasn't changed the damage particularly any. So you just want to save often, and if you do get killed, just reload your save and have another crack at it. Because otherwise the game becomes very punishing. So I suppose the question is how does this stand up to today, really? And, in all honesty, not that well. The level design is certainly nothing to write home about compared to some of the later games in the series, such as Doom, and indeed other style games of this 3D style games, Hex and Heretic. It just feels very repetitive. You've got limited weapons, you've got your pistol, your MP40 and the chain gun. And You know, there's the limited enemy types. So, all in all, as you can see, there's no real ceiling textures. It plays smooth enough. There we go. But it just feels, after a while, it just feels sort of repetitive is the only word. I mean, some levels can be really big and sprawling, and so, you know, it's a little bit samey in places. Plenty of ammo. Although, of course, only having the one ammo type does make life a lot easier, that's for sure. Once you get the chain gun, yeah, you've pretty much won. I'm trying to remember where the chain gun is in the grand scheme of things. Also, every so often I still hit R for reload, even though you don't need to worry about that in these games. Some habits die hard. But yeah, as far as the game itself goes, it is, it's one of those things. I mean, I'm aware of that when I'm playing a lot of these old past blasters. Sometimes you've got to try and factor for nostalgia goggles. But you would need a very thick set of nostalgia goggles really for this one, I honestly feel. It just does sort of show its age overall. Although at least the source port does help, and of course I will put a link in the description to download that. And the other good thing with the source port though, the EC Wolf, is once you download it, you can pretty much just run it from wherever you've downloaded it from, just run it and it will automatically find your files for the GOG or Steam if you've got them installed via GOG or Steam. No need to mess around with configs or move anything about. So that's definitely a nice touch. But yeah, the game itself is honestly very repetitive compared to the later games in the series. Again, it's a product of its time. There we go. Now everything becomes a whole lot easier now you've got this gun. You can pretty much lay waste to everything, but of course you will chew through your ammo pretty rapidly. So I think we'll just about get around to concluding our dealings here, gang, because other than the fact that, yeah, the later levels can be quite punishing, because the damage model can be quite harsh as well. That's just instinct. I was thought it was going to be somebody behind the door there. Von Leben indeed, Squire. Whatever that means. But yeah, it's unfortunate this hasn't quite aged all that well, in honesty. So it wasn't really it's certainly not a stealth game. It wasn't really the first 3D game developed by id Software. The games that came after it were far superior in many ways, as were a lot of the other 3D games that came afterwards, such as Heretic and Hexen. Leaves this as kind of I mean, if you're really interested in sort of seeing how the 3D games developed at the time, it's got a sort of certain curio value, I suppose, but not a lot else, in all honesty. And yeah, say it's not that it's terrible, but it's not as very good either in comparison to what else you could get. So yeah, for curio value, it's probably its biggest recommendation. I mean, there's the fact that the little portraits as you get damaged, of course, does the classic getting more damaged than injured. But that's just nice little touches. So anyway, gang, thanks for taking the time to watch the video. Hope you found it useful and entertaining in some way. And as ever, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to let me know you're alive. And I shall see you all next time. Bye now.